Well, here we are, guys. We're back, with the NRRRL wrap with the on the Gingy and Foxy podcast. But we've got some special announcements tonight. The Big Foxy's away. He's away at the moment. He's got some university. Apparently, he's going to be educated. So he's away doing his studies and practicing or studying to be a school teacher. The only thing I will say about that, we've got a couple of special guests tonight, filling in for Foxy, and if they do a good job, this could be Foxy's. Last week could have been Foxy's last gig.
I'm aiming to take the throne, mate. I'm aiming to take the throne.
So the special guest we got here tonight, we've asked Jason Munro from the Moree Boomerangs. He's going to be on tonight, and special guest. Thanks for coming, Jace.
Thanks for having me again, eh?
Yeah, mate. Good to have you. We're gonna get into some NRRRL conversations about the last week or the week that was. We're then going to get into, Jason's going to give us a bit of an insight into the Group 19 competition, which is what Jace coaches in, and he's also going to give us a bit of a talk too about the Group 4 competition out in the Tamworth region. Moree also have a side in that competition as well, the Moree Boars. So Jace is going to give us the inside info on what's going on in that competition. Obviously, John, you're here tonight to fill in for your brother boy, Les.
Yep. We'll be friendly
just to go on the record. Les, if you're watching, I know you will be, mate. You'll be definitely watching because you'll be pretty keen to find out if this went all right without you. If this actually does go really, really good tonight, Les, mate, you'll be given your leave pass, and we'll continue on with the podcast with the new version of that.
So if Les goes, and what do you call it, Gingy and the Fox, or what do you call it?
Yeah, we're going to call it Gingy and the Silent One.
No, that's not good. I don't like that.
So
name.
Gingy and the Silent One.
I think we need to workshop that, mate.
We're going to call it. We'll change the name of it. It'll be called the NRRRL Wrap with the Gingy, the Silent One, and Cuz.
Who Cuz? Oh
yeah,
yeah,
there you go. Yeah. So that's. Yeah, well, Jace, me and Jace go a long way back. Just a little story before we do go. Jace is actually, I call him Cuz. We actually are blood relatives. But the big thing about Jace is our history goes back, mate, since we were kids. We basically grew up together. Pretty much lived in each other's house from right from when we were bloody little boys or babies right through to where we're, near young men. So doing that, growing up in Sydney, we both lived in Sydney at the time, and we used to go around to Jace's a fair bit. And then when we moved back out to Moree, I had to go back and forth to Sydney to see some medical practitioners and doctors, or whatever they call them. I used to stay at Jace's place all the time. And Jason, my brother, my brother Johnny.
Yeah.
So yeah, that Jason and Johnny are really thick. They used to be really tight. I was the odd one out. So these two guys.
Were you jealous?
No, mate. Jace lived in a two-story house back in Sydney, but there was one time, and I could clearly remember it. It'll never leave my memory. But I was upstairs with the boys, and the boys had the shits with me. And they didn't like a few things. I took control. I was the older one. I always had the boys under control. So they thought they'd double up on me. And the way they did that was we're all upstairs. All our parents are downstairs. Jason, Johnny, mate, they pushed me down the fucking staircase. Oh, sorry for swearing. They pushed me down the staircase, and all the way down the bottom. And all of our parents, what's going on? What's going on? Two boys took back off in the room. then they went up and found out what was going on. The boys played silly buggers, and don't know what happened. Must have been the ghost. It was Jace. So thanks, Jace. I reckon all those rolls down that staircase has actually paid off because, mate, it gave me the best mindset ever. And I always now go out and watch me back because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think your knee says otherwise.
So that's an introduction to me and Jace's relationship. But
yeah.
Anyway, let's get on to the NRRRL wrap, combined with a bit of a country wrap. We're going to go on and talk about other competitions in the New South Wales Rugby League, out in, as I said, the Group 19 competition in Group 4. Thanks for coming, John. It was a bit of a late call-up for John tonight to come into the podcast, but he's here. So I think you're going to have a good night, mate, and you'll enjoy yourself, and don't hold back is what I'd say.
Yeah, I was really enjoying laying in my bed until you called me like about 10, 15 minutes before, so thanks for that.
Thankfully, you live very close to where we are, so it's all good. But, mate, again, thanks for coming tonight, and we'll get into it. So what we're going to do, we're going to start with our first segment of the podcast, which is called around
Oh,
the grounds. So here we go. We're going to get into it, Jace. So what we're going to talk about now is the rounds from last week. So last week's round and results. So round 14 of the NRRRL competition, Jan.
Yep.
Had some interesting games during that round of football.
There was.
Mate, and when we go through these rounds, there's been a couple of upsets. So we'll have a bit of a chat about those as well.
Yeah, there was.
So the first game we want to go into is the Bilambil v Tweed Coast Raiders.
Yep. Look, I thought Tweed were going to be up for it. I really did. Unfortunately, Tweed went down the Raiders.
Yeah. Mate, they jumped out of the blocks really well, though. Like,
Yeah.
seriously, I think at one point there was 18-4 Bilambil were up. Tweed Coast Raiders were up. And that was like about the 25-minute mark into the game. And it was at that point in the game where Bilambil sort of pretty much pressed the button and went, okay, look, guys, we're in a game here. And then they started the fight back first. But post the fight back, they really gained the ascendance in that game, particularly the back end of that first half, and then going into the second half, continued that. As you know, my young bloke, interesting, he gave me a call during the week, young Chris, and said, Dad, you know, I'm in this week, I'm playing first grade again, I'm starting 5'8". I watched the game, mate, if he's a 5'8", I'm giving it up. He played front row.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
well done to the Bilambil Jets, mate. 40-22, and the score ended up.
Yeah, one thing about Bilambil, they never go away, them fellas.
Nah, they're an 80-minute team, mate.
Yeah,
I mean,
and they're just well-oiled machine. They just work hard for each other, and that's showed from their premiership last year, you know.
So they are the premiers from last year, Jace, the Bilambil Jets. They're reigning premiers, and they're sitting obviously equal first at the moment.
They got Rabbitohs colours too, don't they, bro?
Yeah, they do, mate. Yeah, they do. Yeah, mate. Talking to an avid Rabbitohs supporter, Jace.
Yeah.
Mate, so yeah, mate. They are the official Myrtle Green and
Myrtle and Green. I don't know. I'm no Rabbitohs fan.
Yeah,
Maybe
and red.
you can
Anyway,
let us know, Jace. What the actual colours?
Yeah, no, he's right. Myrtle and Green, eh?
Well, there you go, brother.
I lived in Redfern, you idiot.
Well, that doesn't mean you know everything.
No, but I do know what colours the Rabbitohs are.
Okay, right.
But anyway, thanks, Jace, for that little input. But well done to the Bilambil Jets, mate. Progress their way through the competition, hold their spot at the top of the ladder with Ballina at the moment. We'll get into that soon, though. Moving on, mate. Mullumbimby v Ballina. I thought this was going to be a lot closer than what it was.
Yep.
And probably for the first half it was. I think
you reckon?
There wasn't much in the first half.
First half was like 30-0 or something.
No, it was 30 to. It was actually, I think it was 30 to 10.
And you think that was close?
Well, it was close for about 25 minutes.
Yeah. Man,
So-
Ballina just jumped straight out of the blocks, I thought.
Yeah, well, they did. They got away to a good start. Mullumbimby's season was on the line, and
Still is.
I'm just going to call it. That's it. It's done. Mullumbimby's season's over. They won't make the top 6.
I disagree. I think they're mathematical chances, but they got some hard games coming up, that's for sure. But I don't think you'll ever count them guys out. I don't think anyone should ever count anyone out in this.
I'm counting them out because we're playing this week, so I'll get to that in a minute.
Well,
but anyway,
what I'm saying, as a player, we don't underestimate.
well, they're not even in the 8, so at the moment
Okay.
they won't make it. But that's just me, mate. You know what I'm like. I'm pretty good on that sort of stuff. The score line in the end was 42-10 to Ballina. So Ballina, mate, they'll finish first.
Yeah, they had a couple of young fellas, new faces in there too.
Yeah, they rested a few.
Yeah.
And
What
they
did that
still
tell
come
you?
away with a good win.
Yeah, what did that tell
Their
you?
depth is good. That's what it tells me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll sort of teach you that stuff down the track as we go about the
Oh,
podcast.
here
and
we
you can
go.
read into these things, but
Here we go.
moving right on, mate. Wollumbar v Coogee. Close game. This was a close game. So first half, I think there was only, pretty sure there's only 6 points in it at half time to Coogee. But Wollumbar did get away early. They were 8-0 at one point, and then Coogee came back at them. This was a tough game. The scoreline never indicated how close Wollumbar was in this game. Was that what the game was played at Wollumbar? But I thought they were a chance of upsetting Coogee at one point. Coogee for me, and I've been saying this for the last 3 weeks, Coogee for me, I know they've had a big backlog of injuries. Those players are now starting to return. I did say this to Les and he disagreed. I actually said Coogee would make the 6 this year. He didn't agree to that one, but, you know, Les isn't here tonight, so I'm saying that I won that battle.
They've got 2 rounds left to prove them.
Yeah, they have. They've got some tough games ahead, and I'll talk about that later. But at this stage, they do sit in the 6. They got away with the win in the end, but they look underdone. Going into the semi-finals, you can't get any fitter than what everyone is at the moment. I think semi-final intensity will catch them out if they do make the 6, and the pace of those games will catch them out as well. They've got some big bodies, but my 18-8, the score ended up to Coogin. So again, they've progressed. They actually were outside of the 6 at the time. Yeah, now they're in the 6. So,
Man, you are harsh. You are a harsh judge.
I'm just, mate. I don't cut. It's just cut and dry, mate.
Yeah,
we're not here to win.
But I'm just
between you and me, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to win premierships. So let's just talk about that.
Okay, all right. Let's talk about premierships.
We'll get moving right along. We had the wooden spoon match, Kyogle v Casino.
How'd that go?
Mate, Casino 48-16.
Where have they been all year?
Oh, mate, I'm not quite. Their last couple of weeks has been pretty good.
Yeah.
I think they've had 2 wins back to back. But 48-16. Eddie Walker-Williams was brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant.
He was great for Casino on the weekend. Kyogle just looked like they put the flag up and that's it. Their season's over. Woodsy's had a long year again. I think that was Woodsy's last year over Kyogle as well.
Really?
Yeah,
he got a lot to offer, that fella.
Mate, I think Woodsy's going to take a step back from coaching footy.
Okay.
That's the rumour. I get that hot off and I'm going to talk about that later. That's hot off the press from the Gossies Goss. So we'll get to that later, but I think Woodsy's days over at Kyogle are pretty much done, and I think Kyogle.
Is that Woodsy choice or Kyogle choice?
I think it's Woodsy's, mate.
Okay.
So next game, upset of the round, I think, which is Evans Head Bombers v Byron Bay at Byron. I did call it on the weekend. I actually said that it would be an upset. I did say it was going to be close. Well, the only thing that I was proven right with is that Byron Bay, they had a middle phase of that game, probably the 20-minute mark between 20 minutes into half-time and 20 minutes after half-time. They dominated that game. Their forward pack dominated the Evans Head forward pack, which is a worry. The Evans Head forward pack has not been dominated this year very often. And they were really dominated 46-28. 46-28.
I know a good sign that came out of that game with Todd Carney back at number 6 or 7.
I've been calling that all year.
Yeah, I know you will. I remember the first couple of podcasts.
So Todd, but I think they've got young Colby, the young hooker's back. He was out injured for a fair bit.
And he scored a try.
Yeah, mate, he's good. Good kid.
He's fast, he's quick.
He's a very smart dummy half.
Yeah.
Probably one of the good 9s in the competition. I think he plays a fair bit. He's played a fair bit of rep footy at NRRRL level. He's played Northern Rivers. So he's a smart young kid and offers a lot. And he showed that on the weekend. And his combination with Todd Carney, and then they've got the big Fijian winger running like a thoroughbred.
I seen that crossfield kick that he scored in the first half.
Yeah, mate, he's good.
I
watched Byron against Balamble the week before, and I actually said, don't be surprised if they jump out of the box and catch Evans Head unaware, and they did that.
Yeah.
So that places Evans Head season on the line a bit. They're still in the 6, but we're going to talk about that down the track. Last game of the round, another upset. Marsh Brothers v Lower Clarence.
Yeah, that was.
At Oaks Oval.
Yep.
Lower Clarence, 2 weeks prior to that, created the upset of the round, which is upsetting Northern United.
Yeah.
In a very tight game towards the end, but they got away to a really good start.
Yeah.
And
good half.
Yeah, mate. And look, this was no different. Their first half against Brothers, I think 20 minutes in, I just thought this is going to be anything. They jumped out to a 12-0 lead, and that's where they stayed.
Yeah.
They just packed up, thought they had the game won. Brothers, mate, Jace, interestingly in this game, I think their best player, Brothers' best player, and on the back of him, scored 2 tries, Willie Hammond.
Young Will, yeah.
Yeah, young Will played half-back for Brothers on the weekend. He's been at Brothers half a season. And I think his addition to that team has added a little bit more stout to Brothers.
Yeah.
A lot more direction.
Yep.
Paulie O'Neill's been out injured for the last 6 weeks.
He came back.
Did he?
Yeah,
On
he
the
was their
weekend?
number 9.
Okay, there you go. So he was back. There you go. I didn't know that. That's an early comeback if he's come back because he had a broken thumb, I think. But 26-12 Brothers over Lower. So that could be Lower's season.
Yep.
That could be Lower's season, mate. So there was a lot on the line, mate. So that's the rounds. That's the rounds of round 14. That's the results. Obviously, Northern United had the bye. We had the weekend off, so we beat the bye. We got 2 points. The bye.
We've had 2 weeks off.
Yeah, we've had 2 weeks off, but we beat the bye. Easy. I think it was like 30-something to nil at half time.
It wasn't easy, mate. That bye was not ezy, I tell you. As a player, that bye was not easy.
No, so anyway, we progress our way in the competition. What we're going to do now, Jace, and we're interested to hear your thoughts on this one. We're going to jump into the current ladder of the NRRRL competition. So at the moment, top of the table on equal points, 26 is Ballina and Bilambil. Northern United closely followed on 24 points in third spot. Evans Head Bombers at fourth in 16 and 4 and against. You got 3 sides, Jace, loggerhead at between 4 and 6. Evans Head Bombers, Coogin, and Tweed Coast Raiders all tied on 16 points. So the top 3 is finalised. No one can be taken out of the top 3. But the bottom 3, there's 2 rounds to go. Obviously, this weekend's rounds, and I'll get to that in a minute. And then obviously the last round of the competition, which is round 16. But at the moment, there's a bit of a loggerhead. Interestingly, too, Jace, in this one, we've got Byron Bay on 15 points, just outside the 6.
In 7th place.
In 7th place, sorry. And you've got Lower Clarence on 14 points in 8th position. Yep. Your call about Mullumbimby, gone. Yeah. They aren't in there, mate. Sorry.
Are you serious? They're not in it?
No, they're not in. They're actually low. They're below Lower Clarence.
Jeez.
Yeah, so that's Mullumbimby's season over, and I'm not being disrespectful to Mullumbimby, but mate, our last 3 weeks of training at Northern, and last night's session, if I was Mullumbimby, and I'm just going to put it out there, mate, bring over the cavalry because we're ready.
Yeah.
We're ready, and I'm not being cocky. I'm being confident. Northern United's going to be ready, and we're going to do a job this weekend, and we're going to try and build into the back end of our season, and that's going to start this weekend against Mullum.
Yeah, no pressure. No pressure. It's all good.
No pressure, and the only pressure that from me, not so much, but as a coach, but from a playing point of view, it's perform or peril.
You know I'm being sarcastic, eh?
Well,
that's a lot of pressure.
You never know. But anyway, so Jace, what do you think about that? What do you think about the current, I suppose, top 6, but the eight positions within the NRRRL competition this year?
Pretty close, eh, bro? I'll just say, bro, the boys roam on the weekend, Alan and Jared, and I've seen them, and the boys look fit, eh?
Yeah, they're fit.
Yeah. Bumby's, that looks like he's actually shed a few kilos.
Yeah.
So, bro, what's the best case scenario for Northern? Can you still finish?
So, best case scenario, Jason, with two rounds left. Mm-hmm. I mean, this weekend you've got a very close game. I'm going to get to that in a minute between Coogin and Bilambil. So round 15, that could go either way. I'm not even going to call that game. I think Coogin's on the rise. Bilambil's been cruising, but Bilambil aren't 100% either. I think it's going to be a tight game. That game, it's going to be a very close game. Yeah. Coogin are hungry, and whenever there's a game, Jace, against Coogin and Bilambil, mate, it's always intense. Yeah. There's a very big rivalry. It's like the cross town. It's like us playing Marsh Brothers here in Lismore. Yeah. So Bilambil and Coogin are a very, very similar game. It's like the grudge match up there on the Tweed Coast. So yeah, it'll be interesting, mate. I'm only going to say that it's going to be one hell of a game. Yeah. And it's going to be close.
Is that Saturday or Sunday?
The thing with that though, Jace, is should Coogin upset Bilambil, and we beat Mullumbimby, then we'll be equal on points going into the last round.
Yep.
And the last round, Bilambil will have Byron Bay, who are busting themselves to get into the 6, and that was a very close game. That was a very close game between Bilambil and Byron the last 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So they only played each other 2 weeks ago, mate, and there wasn't much in it, Jace. So, look, if there is 2 upsets, then that could propel us up to second spot. And if that happens, that gives us the weekend off, first week of semis, and then going in against Ballina. Alternatively, should Balamba win through on the weekend, I pretty much say that that's it. They've cemented their second spot, and they'll get the weekend off, first week of semis, and play Ballina to host. So that's the way it works.
Usually get 2 bites of the cherry anyway.
Yeah, mate. Look, look, as I said, there's no pressure on Northern in relation to the Balamba situation. All the pressure's on Balamba to maintain their spot. I can't see Ballina getting beat the last 2 weeks of the competition. They've got this weekend, Ballina have got Evans Head.
Yep.
That's going to be a tough game. Evans are fighting to stay. Evans' season's on the line this weekend.
Yep.
If they, mate, to be totally honest, if Evans Head lose, they'll fall out of the 6, and Byron Bay with the bye this weekend, they'll push into the 6.
Yep.
So this could be Evans Head's season's on the line this weekend.
Well, you're looking at it. It's Tweed, Coogin, or Evans. Any of those team losers.
If there's any losses in that, out of those top 3 teams that I've just mentioned, Jace, Byron Bay will just leapfrog them this weekend. So Byron will end up into the 6th. I'm just going to say it. Byron's going to end up in the top 6 this weekend.
Yeah.
Where they could end up in either 5th or 6th spot, I think. That's a prediction from my end.
Okay.
If Lower win this weekend, mate, they could also potentially end up in the 6 on differentials.
Yep.
Because they'll be coming up to those teams that are 2 of these teams could end up stay on 16 points.
Yeah.
Which could put them out. So yeah, it'll be interesting, Jace. The next 2 weeks are interesting. Other games this weekend, as I said, Evans Head are playing Ballina. Northern United are playing Mullumbimby on Saturday at home. Brothers are playing Casino over at Casino. Brothers back end of the season has been great. They've actually strung together. So it's in Lismore, is it, on Sunday? Okay, so they play on Sunday. Brothers back end of the season has been pretty damn good. They've actually, if they win this weekend, I think that's 3 on the trot.
Yeah.
So their season finish is positive, I think, for their club.
Yeah.
I mean, considering the start of the season they've had, finishing the season positive is a great thing for that club.
Yep.
Lower Clarence will play Kyogle. I'm saying Lower. It's at Lower Clarence, so whether Kyogle travel, I don't think they're going to travel well this weekend. My prediction is Lower in that one.
I think Lower will bounce back. I think after the week game against Mars Brothers, I think they'll want to prove a point.
Mate, this is the other tough game this weekend. Tweed Coast Raiders versus Moolumbar. I did say Moolumbar in the last 3 weeks were going to upset a few teams. They nearly did it on the weekend against Coogin.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have potential to upset Tweed Coast this weekend.
Moolumbar?
Yep. I think they have the potential to upset Tweed Coast at Tweed Coast this weekend. Big call, but I think they have the cattle to do it. If not, it's going to be a very tight game.
Well, Tweed's fighting for a top 6 spot, so.
Yep. And mate, I'll tell you now. You know what? I know Moolumbar aren't fighting for a 6th spot, but they want to upset the apple cart.
Yeah.
They want to upset as many people they can along the way, mate. So
that's
this
why
weekend,
I'm thinking Mullumbimby too.
So that's round 15, Jace. We're going to jump straight into round 16, which is the last round of our competition next weekend, not this weekend, but the following weekend. We've got Balamba v Moolumbar at Balamba. Ballina v Byron Bay. Byron season, they'll go into the 6, potentially could go back out of the 6 next week. It's a crazy bottom 3. Tweed Coast Raiders play Coogin.
Gee.
The last round of the competition.
Another local derby.
One of those teams are not going to be playing finals footy.
Yep.
Kyogle play Brothers. I think Brothers are going to win by 1 trillion. That's over at Kyogle, that game. Casino play Lower. The form that Casino's in, they could probably do anything at the end of the year. They could upset anybody. Yep. And Evans Head, Jace, play Northern United. So if Evans get beat this weekend by Ballina, they'll be out of the 6. They'll need to win against Northern to go back into the 6.
Yep.
We would like to go into the semi-finals with a win against Mullum and a win against Evans Head.
Yep.
Where I think we're going to be okay. I'm not going to go out on a limb now and say, we're going to go down to Evans and we're going to just run riot. I think what's going to happen, it's going to be a tough game down there. Evans at home. If they're fighting to get back into the 6, it's going to be a tough weekend for Northern. I think we've had some really good work under our belt, and I'm not being cocky. I'm just saying that I'm confident in what we've done in the front and back end of our season, and I'm confident in the work we're doing off the playing days.
So going off what you're saying, from 4 down to 8.
Do you want me to predict the top 6?
No, hang on. 4 to 8 are all playing semi-final football now. Yep.
So our semis have really started the last 2 rounds, Jace.
Pretty much the same, mate. It seems to be something in there, bro, with all the close competitions, eh?
It is, mate. It is. And I mean, this year's competition, the NRRRL, I know I said this way back, I think in podcast 3 or 4, mate, the NRRRL committee, the clubs that are a part of that decision-making format for this competition, I'm just going to say, mate, hats off. They've done a great job this year. Without a doubt, this competition has been the closest competition. You really didn't know who's going to win it every week. Some teams have jumped out of the box and got away to a really good, start to their season and held themselves through the middle. And that's obviously the top 3 teams. But the fights in the bottom 3 is like, as I said, you can see by the last 2 rounds, Jace, this is going to be pretty much semi-final football from here on in.
Yeah.
So, it's a good competition. It's been very healthy. Jan's been a huge part of Northern's. I
wasn't in the start, but anyway.
No, not as a player, I was actually going to say. Jason, Jan was the president of the club at the start of the season at Northern, and he had a playing role. And through his work commitments, family commitments, and playing commitments, he's now taken a backward seat. And Mitch is the president and Jan's vice president. But he's playing this year. He wasn't quite sure at the start of the season. He put a challenge to me, and he said, "Let me prove myself." And I think after 3 trials,
I did not say, "Let me prove myself." He said to me, "You're too skinny. You look sick." And I said, "What?"
Put him in the grave.
Jace,
that's what I said.
If anyone knows, Jace knows, I'm brutally honest when it comes to
I know
players.
I'm known for a long time.
So,
but he did have not any nice word to say to me. So I said, you know what? I'm going to prove this fellow wrong.
And you did.
Yeah, I did. So,
so anyway,
eat your word, bro.
Yeah. I'm. You know what? I'm actually not. I'm more than happy to eat my words, but I could swallow them because, mate, you've been great, and that's not paying in your pocket. That's being honest. But unless you finish the back end of the season off for me, I'm probably going to bag you at the end of it. But anyway, we'll see how that goes. So no pressure, John. You've got a big back end of the season to finish on and see how you go, mate. We might even pick you in the semis if you do well over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, I hope I get picked in the semis.
So we'll see how you go. Mate, jumping out of that, Jace, we're going to jump straight into the news section of the NRRRL Wrap, which is going in and have a look at other parts of the competition around New South Wales country. You're coaching, mate, out in Group 19. You're coaching the Moree Boomerangs. In doing that, mate, it's been a long season for you as a club. It's been a long season in Group 19. How has the season been for you, mate? What's it been like this year?
Yeah, bro. We started like the first couple of rounds. We started like a house on fire. I think we went 4-0, 5-0, and then after that we just hit a hurdle. I think we lost about 4 out of our last 5 games. So we was up and down, and then a couple of games that we had to win. Like the last months, bro, for us has been sudden death football.
Okay.
And then Saturday we had to play Bingra at Bingra. So whoever won that game would have slipped into 4th spot.
So it's a top 4 out there.
Yeah, top 4, and like you said, but it's pretty close, like the comp up there, because we beat them and then we snuck into 4th, and then if Warrior would have beat Inverell, we could have jumped in the 3rd spot and had a home semi. And Inverell just got over Warrior.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, like the bottom 5, 6 was pretty much a logjam. Glenninus were in the hunt for a while. Even Tinga, like the top teams were getting knocked over by the bottom teams.
Oh, jeez.
So, yeah, it was pretty much up in there, the competition.
When you lost them games in the middle of the season, them 5 games, what do you think went wrong there for you? Like what did that sort of made the thing change that way and got better?
Just a bit of discipline with them, don't you? Like these fellas out here, they're rocks and diamonds. Like, you know, Chris will tell you, but when they're on, they're on. You know, when they're off, they're off.
Yeah.
You just got to, you know, give them a kick up the backside here and there, you know, and they tend to take it on board, and yeah.
How do you deal with personalities though, in tough times like that? Because I know being a coach, you got to coach a team, but you're also dealing with individual personalities and team personalities and dynamics. When it gets tough for you, and the negativity sort of creeps in, how are you managing that sort of stuff?
It's and like I said, Chris will tell you again, because.
No, I was just saying, I'm hoping he's not asking you this question for a reason and coming back with something smart. But anyway, keep going, Josh.
No, okay, about there, there.
You're right, mate. Yeah, go on. You're good. You're good.
Yeah, it's probably not so bad, you know, because a lot of the players in the team are your younger nephews or your younger cousins, you know, and you know, when you address them about certain things and, you know, certain things that you want to work on in their game, you know, they take it on board. A lot of them are coming in leaps and bounds, you know, this year, which is a positive thing for us, you know, our future. But someone tried to tell us that we're through a rebuilding phase, which is, you know, I said no, it wasn't, you know, because I think, you know, only a couple of years ago, you know, we won the grand final up at Glen Innes, you know, probably one of our best wins, you know, we had to come from behind. Once again, you know, like a lot of the clubs had, you know, people written us off, you know, and but you know, Chris and the boys proved them wrong, and they come home with a historic win up in Glen Innes, and then Toby Keys took the reins after that, and then we went into COVID, sort of, you know, and then this year, like I said, it's been ups and downs.
Jace, just in the competition this year, it's interesting looking at your top 4 mix too. You've got Super Spuds, Gyra.
Yeah, Gyra
had a resurgence.
Yeah, resurgence this year. Jaden French, young Jaden, he's captain coach.
Oh, is Jaden captain coach?
Bevan's brother, so he took a few of the Narwhal boys up there with him. Yeah, mate, we played them up there. I think it was in that period when we lost about 5, and they just blew us off the park.
Did you play them up there in the middle of winter?
Nah, bro. But you know what Gyra is like. You know, it's always cold up there.
Is summertime cold there too?
Yes.
Yeah. So seen them have lighting fires up there Christmas time.
So with the Super Spuds, I think they finished first up in the competition this year, quite convincingly.
Yeah, they did, bro, about 4 points, but then, you know, they've lost the odd game here and there, and Narwhal are in second. They've got a young side, young Fletcher Strong's captain coach this year up there.
So Fletcher's captain coach of Narwhal this year. Oh, that's big.
And then you've got NRRRL. They've just got young Jaden Connors back from I think he's up at Q Cup, Jaden?
Yeah.
So is he back at NRRRL?
Yeah, he's back home living.
Geez.
He's had a bonus for them, and then we snuck into 4th place.
Mate, that's interesting. So the top 4 in Group 19 this year, Gyra Super Spuds, Narwhal Eels, NRRRL, and then Boomerangs finishing off in 4th spot.
Yep.
So how's that work with your final series, brother?
So we'll play next Saturday, bro. That's sudden death for us, and Narwhal and Gyra will play to host the grand final.
Okay.
And then hopefully, you know, we can come up and, you know, and play to lose out of that game.
So your semi-final series rolls over 4 weeks.
Yep.
From your point of view, who are the teams that are the teams to really watch in that top 4, besides believing in your own team, out of them other 3?
No one's always our bogey side. You know, like we've always had close games with them. Like there's only 2 points that separated this year, and then I think a draw. So our games against Narwhal are always pretty intense. Like Chris will tell you about it.
Not just in Group 19, Jace. That's in knockouts and everything.
There's a bit of rivalry there, and we've got family in Darwin as well. So they're probably the side that they're probably our bogey side.
So pretty much anyone in that top four, though, on their day, Jace, it sounds like from what you're telling us, is that anyone in that top four in Group 19 could win this competition right now.
Yeah, definitely, bro.
So it's about turning up on the day.
Yeah, whoever shows up, with the right attitude, come to game day, can basically win it.
So you guys travel to Inverell this weekend?
Next weekend, bro.
You got the weekend off. It's an interesting. What they do in Group 19, which Jace has just made me aware of, is they'll have their whole season, and then they do like an AFL final series where in the AFL, the week before the final series, they give the whole competition the weekend off to get through injuries, allow people to. So it's an interesting. When Jace told me this last week, I was like, shit, like that. That actually isn't such a bad idea to have the whole competition breaks for a week before you go into your final series, which mean obviously you're going to see your best football because all those blokes that might be carrying niggling injuries, your preparation that week going into a final series is pretty much spot on. Every team is hungry, and then you go into your final series. So that's what Jace has mentioned to me the other week. So yeah, Jace. So that's I think.
Do you think that will impact momentum?
Yeah, I reckon it does, especially with our lot. They seem to thrive on the momentum. And giving them that week. It's probably how they approach it though too. It could go either way. Two-sided sword. But for us, I would have liked to play this weekend. Because we had a bit of a momentum going into the semi-finals. Last week's game against Bingara, we had a few players back. Young Lockie McGrady came back. He absolutely blitzed them. Willie Fernando got us around the park. So we've got a few old heads and a few younger fellas mixed in there. But I think that's the thing about the Boomerangs too. When they talk about a lot of our veteran players, they're only young fellas because they come through. Like Chris Brin's nursery, like your Jade Porters, your Keenan Duncans, they're still in their early 20s, but they're in our leadership group.
Yeah, mate, it's funny because those young blokes you mentioned, I mean, and people call them a young group, but I think before I came back up the coast, I mean, I had young Jade and I had Keenan, the young two twins, Smith boys. We had all these young kids that were playing first grade or had taste first grade when they were 17,
very young
16,
age,
18 years of age. So we're really lucky that they were coming through as, I suppose, young blokes playing first grade. And people probably think they've been around for such a long time. Like they've been around for 4 or 5 years playing first grade. They're still only like 23.
Yeah.
So, they're good young kids. There's some future in these kids too, Jace.
Yeah, big time.
And that's when you go back to talking about rebuild. We're not even in the rebuild phase. I actually got some really good, experienced, quality young players that can guide us for the next couple of years.
It's funny, Jay says that. It's similar to looking at what Northern. I mean, people even said to us at the start of the year, "Oh, well, Northern's still going through a rebuild," but realistically, we did that. We did sort of partly some of that the first year I came back. By the second year,
I remember that conversation.
you had. By the second year, for us at Northern, we were beyond the rebuild. We're actually trying to settle the club and the team moving forward. And this year, all we've done is just added value to what we already had built on and the young kids that we've got coming through. So yeah, Jace, we're in a similar phase here where people probably see Northern, and I think, to be totally honest, a lot of the comments that I get back from a Northern perspective is, we didn't think we've shocked a few people. They didn't think we were going to be where we were right now at this point in the competition. But I can tell you right now, halfway through last year, I actually said it to you, John. I said, mate, the back end of our season last year was great, and I actually said next year could potentially be a very, very good year for Northern, based on the way we finished our season. I know the final series in this competition last year was a bit different. You had the top 6 and the bottom 6, and the bottom 6 here had a final series as well, Jace. But this year that's not happening. But that actually helped us last year.
Yeah.
Because it gave us an opportunity. We played in the final of the bottom 6. We did get beat in that game, but based on that way we finished our season, I knew we were in for something special this year.
You're actually doing that. That's that's this year too, bro. So it's a tier 1, tier 2. So the top
you
four.
guys are doing it as well.
Yeah, so and then the bottom 4 play off as a like a reserve grade,
for a
like
cup.
Yeah, for a cup
Final.
Yeah, I think that's a state. Yeah, I think that's a state body from New South Wales Rugby League Initiative. I think that's been pushed out by them across the whole state. Just trial and error a few things, see if it works, see if it doesn't work.
Yeah, so. And like for a competition, the only probably reason it didn't work so much here last year is we've got 13 teams in our competition, and it just drags out a whole year for those teams that didn't. There's a financial burden that comes with that as well.
Yeah.
So I get it, but so mate, that's a great insight into the Group 19 competition, Jason. I think while you're there, brother, I know the Group 19 competition and Group 4 competition, there's not too many towns apart.
No.
You've also got another team in Moree called the Moree Boars. They play in the Group 4 competition, which is teams out as far as Tamworth, Katingal, Dungowan, North Tamworth, Werris Creek, over through to Boggabri, Narrabri, right back down through to Moree, which obviously, as I just said, the Moree Boars. What's that competition been like, Jace, this year? You've had an opportunity to have a bit of a look at that as well?
But from the get go, the Boars just had a stranglehold on the competition. They were, there was basically them and then Daylight second. They did the hard yards. I think like they got all their away games, like Dungowan, like you said, bro.
Yeah.
Werris Creek, Katingal, got all them games out of the way, and then they come home, and then like they were, I think 6 points clear of the ladder, and then like I said, they was on fire. All their players were leading the group. Brenton Cochrane was leading the Group 4 player after 4 rounds or something, and then halfway through the season they signed K. What's going on here? And then 2 weeks ago,
Caleb.
Anyone knows, like with Caleb's experience, like he's added bonus to any team. And mate, he looks like he still play first grade again. Like, I met him a couple of weeks ago at the club. I was talking to him. He looks well. And then, mate, like I said, they had Dungowan at home 2 weeks ago, and Dungowan come over and put 50 points on them. And then, that was their first loss of the season. And then they went to Boggabri last week and beat Boggabri on the bell. Oh. And then the following week with that, and then they turned around, had hosted North Tamworth, and North Tamworth put another 50 points on Madomia.
Have they got any injury issues? I know Caleb, the Caleb we're talking about is obviously my son, Caleb Binge, but I don't know if he's played the last 3 weeks or whatever. I know he's got work commitments in the mines. So I know he's been unavailable, I think, for the last 3 weeks. But have they got any other injury concerns or?
No injuries concerns, bro. I think they may have had a couple of suspensions, but as of last week, they were pretty much back to their top side. Yeah, Mick Watton's captain and coach them, and there's, like I said, there's still a lot of young Murray fellas there. Chris has had a lot to do within the team. Yeah. I think young Willie Baker's over here playing with him from down at
mate, I'll tell you what, I watched young Willie Baker. I think I've watched 2 games this year that he played in. Oh, mate, he's one hell of a talent.
But out of the 14 rounds, I think he's got about 25 tries, and then you got the second behind him is young Bob Smith. So they've got some strike power there. Jamie Sampson's there with them. Aaron Robinson. Who else have they got there? There's
Marshall Parker still playing?
Marsh is there. Yeah, he's come off the bench. But from what I've seen this week, they've put Caleb in the number 10. He's starting. I think they've got a lot of their troops back.
Okay.
They'll play. And once again, but that was a funny competition too, because Dungowan was the first team to beat them, and then they had to rely on Werris Creek to lose to Narrabri. Narrabri never won a game all year. Narrabri went down to Werris Creek, and Werris Creek beat them on the bell. So that put Dungowan out. The Tingle snuck into third spot against Werris Creek, and then you got the Boars and North Tamworth playing the major semi on Saturday. The host of North.
Okay.
Just to go back, Willie Baker. I've known Willie since he was a little fella from down there Buckethead, so my connection to him. He's actually my cousin as well from down there Buckethead's way. So I've known him since he was pretty much a baby.
You related to everybody.
Yeah, that's right, brother. I am.
Half of Warrabenda.
All of Wabinda, thank you.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, look, he growing up, he was always special
So
talent.
his mum, young Willie Baker's mum's a Donovan, isn't she?
Yeah, she'd have done it.
And then his dad, his dad's
He's
well renowned. I think he's played. Old Will's played in Group 10.
Yeah.
Mate, I remember watching. I'm trying to think who he played for. It might have been Bathurst Panthers, and they won a grand final out there. They hadn't won a grand final for a long period of time. They got to the grand final, and he kicked a field goal from like 40 metres out, banged it straight down the middle, won a grand final. Mate, he's a bit of a legend out in Group 10.
Yeah, he's a legend everywhere he goes. That fella.
But I know his old man had a fair bit of talent, but I'll tell you what, this young kid, Jason, he is a young kid. I actually don't know how he's not being picked up.
Well, bro, he actually come home, bro, for 12 months, and I think they got him a bit of work here, and they signed him up. And, bro, I think he's going back to an NRRRL club next year. I think he was down in the Melbourne system, eh?
Yeah, he was in the Melbourne system.
Oh, there you go, Jamie.
So he rang me the other week, so he was in that Melbourne.
Is he going back into?
I'm not sure. He's still waiting around, I think, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, tell you what, how old would he be?
Willie, he probably 20, early 20s. Easy, early 20s. So he wouldn't even be 25 yet, I don't think.
Okay, so he's still got. I mean, we know now that there's a lot of young Indigenous outside backs can go down to Sydney, get into a system when they're 24, 25, between 26 and 27, they're getting picked up and they can go on and play until they're 34, 35. I actually, as I said, I watched this young kid play, and every time I've seen him play, I just shake my head and going, why isn't he playing NRL?
Yeah. But the other thing, too, about Aboriginal players is their maturity in terms of development is always a little bit later sometimes, and that comes with football smarts and their body development as well. Okay. So that's what I think too. Like,
geez, you're a bit of a well-versed man, John, in this space.
Mate,
I tell you what, Jace, he's giving Big Foxy a bit of a run for his money here with his inside, knowledge of how people work within systems. Just in that,
here we go.
Just in that, talking about systems, Jace. I don't know whether you know this. Just for the viewers, this is a good little yarn. I actually do now know why you know so much about systems and development. And apart from your dad being a very well-renowned recruiter and part of the Broncos development systems, senior and junior academies, I had the pleasure to work with your dad for 4 years as part of the senior academy of the Broncos. Yeah. Probably the best 4 years of my life in rugby league because not only did I get to spend...
Work-related or fun-related?
Both.
Okay.
You old man, you had to have fun, mate. Dino could... fun with the best of them.
Oh, yeah.
But
saying it,
mate, we had the current head of recruitment, not Frank Panisi, but Paulie Bunn.
Yeah.
Who your dad has a long and extended relationship with.
Yeah.
Wayne Bennett was the coach at the time. Before he got white-antsed. There's only one way to put it.
Yeah.
Before he got white-antsed by Ivan Henjak, and then the person that I'm just going to say it. The person that should probably never went into he's probably been a great assistant coach, but he's not a first-grade coach, which is Anthony Griffin.
He's a Rocky local too.
I don't care where he's from. I'm just being honest about his coaching ability. I mean,
I think sounds like a bit of sour grapes there coming out of you, mate.
Mate, truth hurts. But the reason I'm sharing this yarn with you, Jace, is, and for our viewers, is that the reason this bloke sitting next to me knows so much about that is John actually had the experience. He was in a system. He got an opportunity at a young age, went to St Brennan's up in Yeppoon.
Yeah.
Progressed his way through to a development contract through the Cowboys.
No, not Cowboys, Dragons, brother.
Dragons.
Yeah.
And then from the Dragons across to West Tigers.
Yep.
And then my little butter boy, Jace, he got homesick. He was in the top 30 of an NRL squad. And then I was sitting over in Ballon. I was coaching footy over there, and I got a phone call, and it was like, hey, Chris, it's me, John. And I said, how you going, bud? You keep doing what you're doing. Head up, mate. Work hard and whatever. He said, that's what I'm ringing you about. And I went, oh, mate, I'm only, I'll give you any advice you want, mate. Help you out, whatever, do whatever, mate.
I don't go to you for
you're
advice,
old
but
man.
anyway.
You're old man. Help me out, so I'm only happy to help you out. And he said, well, I actually would like to help me out. He said, I want to come home. I don't want to be in Sydney anymore, and I want to move back, and I want to play football in Ballon. And I said, mate, I'll slap you in the head. Stay where you are. Make the career path. You're already in the top 30. You're signed. He was actually on good dollars too, by the way. I'm just saying it. But he came home, and there she wrote. That's it. That's the end of the NRL career, and he stayed in the country for the rest of his.
I don't regret it, mate.
Yeah, well, that's great.
That's
probably not for everybody.
No.
Jace would know. How many Jace? Well, I am going to say this. I know I told that story about you pushing me down a staircase when I was a kid, but Jace also and his dad and mum provided me with an opportunity when I was about 18 years of age. I went down and Jace's dad got me a trial. I actually had a trial with it was the Balmain Tigers, not the West Tigers back then. Jace was he came along to all those trials. I trained. I lived at his house and trained. We actually took a busload. Myself, a bloke by the name of Matt Munro, went down. Myself and about 4 or 5 other young kids from Moree went down on a bus, and then the bus went back, and the blokes that I suppose got through. We had actually back in those days when you were trialing, you actually had 3 cuts, Jace?
Yeah.
So 3 of us made it through to the final cuts. 2 of us made it right through to contract, which was Matt Munro and myself. I ended up picking up a deal with the Dragons, and you weren't there at the time, but I ended up picking up a deal with the Dragons. It's funny, the team that I went into, Jace, if you can remember, there was Chock was over there, Gordon Tallis, a very young hooker at the time with blonde hair, looked like a little surfer, Brownie. And then Matt Munro actually ended up picking up a deal with the Bulldogs.
Yeah.
And he played a fair bit of lower grades with the Bulldogs. And did he play any first grade, Jace?
Nah, I think Matt was reserve grade. Had 1 year down there, along with I think there was a Mobbies, bro. Rick went down, Jace McGrady, late McGrady, Lewis Saunders. I think Lewis Saunders
was down there. Louis.
There was a handful of you that went down.
Yeah.
I think Chris got picked up by the Tigers at first.
Tigers at first. Yeah, I was there. The Tigers first.
Just for background info, how was it like living with this bloke anyway? Like, besides pleasantly pushing him down the stairs.
Jace, this is the wrong podcast. This is the wrong podcast.
No, he's
we
same
can
way.
actually have a personal podcast, but that's not what this one's. This is a bit different.
Okay. So when the spotlight's on you, we can't talk about
this. This is a bit different to the Matty Johns podcast. This is more about rugby league.
Okay.
But if you want, Jace, I'm happy for you to talk about it if you want, but be short and sweet,
big on discipline, and he runs a tight ship. But the best story I got about him is
here we go. This is what I've been waiting for.
You can look it up. We set a record out here a couple of years ago. We had a drought out here. We set a record of most consecutive days over 40 degrees. 36 days we had in Moree. And we were doing our pre-season. We got up to, no word of a lie, we got up to 51, 52 degrees there. And we started training with the boomerangs. We'd start at 5 o'clock, so that's daylight saving time. So it was actually 4 o'clock. And for some reason we said, there's no way in the world we're going to train today, We'll go down here and have a look. Went down there, and sure enough, he had the cones and the javelin set up, and he made us train. And if anyone trains with Chris, he's got this system where you've got to do so much before you can go and get a drink. There's no you've got to learn how to hide in defence. And mate, he punished us. And we are like this today. What's this fella doing? Oh, mate, it was a kid, but it paid dividends. It was the first time that year that we won 3 grades, our juniors, reserve grade, and A grade. So it paid off, but tough.
First grade only lost 1 game that season too. We nearly won the Clayton's Cup.
Yeah, he's tough.
He's actually learned a little bit, I think, from then. There's a bit more science to the way he coaches now. So
Actually, yeah. Well, I actually had a fair bit of science when I was out there too.
What, 40, 50 degree?
No, science in relation to game management.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But yeah. Cool.
But anyway, enough about me. Jace, mate, that's thanks, mate, for that insight into the Group 19 and Group 4 competitions. I think for the people in the NRRRL, I think we hear about it, but we don't know about it. And I think tonight what you've done is just open the doors for people that are living up on the Northern Rivers around what football is like outside of the Northern Rivers and what football is like in other country areas, and particularly towns like, Armidale, Glen Innes, Warriolda, Moree, right back out through to Tamworth, Katingal, Narrabri. Some people would have never even heard the town of Katingal, but Dungowan, those sort of areas. So thanks, mate. I really do appreciate that. But now I just want to get on to another part of our podcast. We're getting towards the back end of it now. Last week, mate, you're on the podcast with Jake Briggs, myself, Big Foxy. We actually had a special knockout podcast. But what we want to get into now, mate, is the knockout yarns. And it's interesting now. We all know, John, you've been involved in the Aboriginal Rugby League knockouts for a long time as a player, as a support person within a club that's participating in there, as a coach, and also a selector. You've had that sort of role as well. Jace, you've been involved in every capacity. You've won. John doesn't know this, and Jace, this isn't geeing you up either, my brother. I'm being really honest about this. Jace holds a record of his own. Jace has won it.
No, there's a bloke by the name of Wes Patton in front of him. He's got a few in front of me.
But mate, I know you've been a gentleman. You also been, you don't like the limelight.
He's humble.
He's very humble. Yeah. He always has been, except for when he pushed me down the stairs.
How do you know if it was him though? I just got to have his back on this.
Right. Yeah. Listen, there's another part of the story that I could tell you about later, but I'll say that for off the record. So, just on that, Jace has actually had the privilege to win 6 knockouts. Jace?
No, only 4, bro.
4 knockouts, mate. Some of us are only lucky to win 1. Some haven't won any, but
I've been
to win
playing
4
all my life and I've never won none.
To win 4, but I think you've played in 6 finals, haven't you, Jace?
One. I think there's only a couple of us that have won with 3 different clubs.
Yeah. So you've won a knockout with Redfern All Blacks. You've won it with Lapa.
And Narwhal, eh?
And Narwhal. And the one you won in Narwhal has mate, I'm never ever going to forget the one you won with Narwhal. It was up at Coogin.
Yeah.
And there is a very special part to that win. There was a brother that played with Narwhal that weekend, and it was part of your 25-man squad that, we all remember. He was, and to be totally honest, mate, I watched him that weekend. He was a very dominant player that weekend, and sadly, he was lost to the game and lost to his family and lost to his community at the knockout. And I think it'll be always remembered in people's minds, that knockout for those special reasons, but also for the purpose, mate. I mean, no one gave you guys a chance that year up there, Jace.
Nah, mate, it was a big shock, It was a big fella, passing away, and at one stage he wasn't even coming, eh? He was going to stay home, and I take me out off the Waterloo because at the time we played Waterloo, and we was actually leading, and Buddy Gordon walked up to Dennis and said, "Mate, look, he said we'll actually sit out, and you can go through to the final." And mate, I remember as clear as day. Dennis just looked at him and said, "We come here to play football. We play football."
Yeah.
And as they say, the rest is history,
Yep.
I remember that grand final really clearly.
So,
probably one of the best grand finals.
Outside of that, now let's get in. And again, Jace, I wasn't saying that to, have a bit of fun with it. It needs to those sort of milestones need to be acknowledged. People that have won significant knockouts and more importantly won a number of knockouts, more than one. You've won 4, mate, and some people never get an opportunity to win any. So, well done on that regard. Just going back to the knockout now, we talked last week about a few things, clubs that are participating in this year's knockout, new clubs like Sydney All Blacks, the likes of Addo Carr. He's there. You know, we're talking number 25 in Humdinger, being a part of that squad. That could be right or wrong, we don't know, but that's one of the yarns. But the Sydney All Blacks, mate, it's a combination of Redfern, Waterloo and Glebe, from what we hear and what we spoke about last week. Have you heard any rumours about players outside of the Addo Cars that are going to be a part of that squad this year, mate?
They'll probably have
Eli?
Possibility, bro. Yeah, possibly. Eli
Roberts, yeah.
Pops up. This is going to come as a big shock for anyone that know me. Ty Munro.
Yeah, well, mate, he was a big part of your squad last year, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
Ty.
Apparently Ty's playing with him. You got if you can call him that now, the Prince of the Knocker. You got young Regan Carr's there. I think
Regan. Yeah, shit.
Regan won about 3 or 4 knockouts now too. Only a young fella.
Yep.
He's there. Yeah, bro. There's a big mix. The big talking point out this way, bro, is no Cabo. Like everyone knows, like they're shocked, you know.
That got dropped on us last week. Remember, Les sort of Big Foxy dropped it on us last week, and he actually had that from a pretty good source, a pretty reliable source. I think that is a big shock. That's a big shock, not just for people when the announcement was made, but I think the question, you know, has been asked. You know, is it for real? And I mean, we got asked during the week, is that real? And from all reports that we've heard, yeah, it is. And we don't know the reasons behind that.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, we all know that in February 2022, Cabotree Island community was devastated by the floods in the Northern Rivers. We're 18 months on beyond the floods, and to be totally honest, mate, recovery isn't happening quick enough. Yeah. There's still a lot of work to be done, and there's still some big decisions that are going to be made for community. So maybe that has a bit to do with why they may not be participating this year. Financial components could be an issue as well. I don't know. We're all reading into it, but no one really knows the full story, and the only ones that really do are the people that are involved with the Cabotree Island Football Club. Yeah. So, mate, I'll try and get in contact with Des Anderson in the next couple of days to confirm that, and maybe bring that back next week's podcast to confirm if it is for real or not. But if it is real, then it's been a very, very, very long time since Cabo hasn't participated in a knockout.
Yeah, and they bring the crowd, you know, and their supporters
similar to the Boomerangs, brother.
And that's why we love them so much. You know, their passion. You know, we love the Cabo mob, and you know, especially what the girls did last year. The knockout was a big thing, and you know, we saw the emotion after they won that game. You know, it was.
It was actually I was a part of that. I was a part of those young girls last year, and it was unbelievable, mate. Those young girls are just out of the box, mate. And to be totally honest, there's a number of those young girls that me and John know very closely that are now created their pathways through to WNRL. I think there's 4 or 5 of those young girls now that are in pathways and also development squads, and also some have actually on the verge of signing a WNRL contract. Yeah. So there's some really handy young ladies that played in that team, and the future, mate, for that team is unbelievably good.
That knockout for them girls that they won it, winning that was the catalyst for them to go on to get the success that they have now. So,
mate, that being said, I'm hearing some yarns that there's a bit of, I suppose, not so much, I suppose, upsets or anything like that, but Newcastle Emus, mate. I'm hearing that they could be, the camp's not settled just yet. I know last year we talked about it. Jason, me and you had a good chat about this as well. The young halfback that was part of Newcastle Emus, who I think he was absolutely sensational over the knockout. Young Moree boy too, Jerem Haynes.
Yeah.
I've had the opportunity to speak with Jerem through the week. The rumours that we got last week that the camp in the Emus isn't settled isn't so true. I think he's telling me that the conversation it actually is really settled. They're looking pretty good. I think at this stage, I know that he's had a few other opportunities. He's been asked to play the few. I think we talked him up last week. It could be a part of the Toomala team this year. We also know that I think Toby might have had a conversation with him. I don't know, but being a Moree boy, and having the ability and the experience that he's gained down in the Newcastle comp, he'd be a great additive to the Moree Boomerangs.
Yeah.
But I'm hearing that he's sticking thick, mate. I think he's pretty sure that he's going to be sticking with the Emus.
Yeah, I think they looked after him a bit last year, and mate, he absolutely killed him, mate.
He was brilliant last year.
Yeah,
I think Tyrone was also good for him too. Tyrone Roberts-Davis.
They're back. The two Davis boys are back.
Yeah, with Greg,
Tyrone and Greg Davis.
Yeah.
They're both definitely at the Emus this year. I think they're going to have a. From what the rumours that have come through to me is they're going to have a very strong team this year.
I think they recruited Josh Toole.
Yes.
From Burke Warrior too. So
I'm hearing the same thing.
Yeah, they recruited him. Yeah.
What about his brother?
Matt. I don't know. You know what I mean about knockout.
Yeah, so well, Matty Toole plays here with Evans Head.
The one I will throw out there, bro, what I'm hearing is bit I won't say unsettling, but the reigning champs.
NAB.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, geez, I never heard that. I thought they were going. After speaking with Jake last week, they seem like they have a pretty settled camp.
Yeah, we heard there may be
a couple of defections.
Suspended players. So.
Yeah, mate. Well, interestingly, I'm glad you mentioned suspended players.
Yeah.
Look, mate, we know the rules. I think the rules have been set in concrete now. There's going to be no budging on that. If you are a suspended player in any competition in the New South Wales Rugby League or Queensland competition, even if it's for 1 week, like just an example, if you're suspended for 4 weeks, and one of those weeks goes beyond your season into next year, then you won't be playing in the knockout this year.
So if your suspension carries over to 2024, you can't play knockout.
No, okay, definitely not.
That's what you could have said.
Yep.
You just made.
Well, no, because remember I think a few years back, Jace, and it was at Leichhardt Oval. When the knockout was down there, they actually did it, and I know and I'll tell you how I know because I was part of the Boomerangs at the time. One of our players was suspended. He served. He had 1 game suspension. Boomerangs went on to play 2 games. That suspension, he played in the 3rd game. So, but the rules have now changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that player was Craig McKenzie.
Yeah.
Do you agree with the, like, personal opinion? Do you agree with the suspended player not allowed to play or allowed to play?
I totally agree with it.
Yeah. What do you think, Jace?
Yeah, you're not gonna. It comes down to the referees too. They won't ref. I think
it's a sanctioned event.
Yeah.
Once you're sanctioned by New South Wales Rugby League, which the knockout is, and even our little knockout sanctioned by New South Wales Rugby League, the rules are the rules.
Yeah.
And players need to understand. I think this is the key message now to all players in all competitions. If you want to play in the knockout, then be disciplined and don't get yourself in a situation where you're up for suspension for an extended period of time, because once that happens, realistically, last year it got really tested with Bryony Kell, Bud, Cabo. Obviously, we know that he's a Cabo boy. Cabo had him in the team. Tried to, I think there was a negotiation between New South Wales Rugby League, the knockout organisers,
and the NRRL.
And the NRRL. Yeah. And realistically, what happened was the rules are the rules. He couldn't play.
Yeah.
So that is the rules, and I think we're just going to have to learn all of our players around the state and also up in Queensland.
And is that all levels
from
junior country.
League.
Junior league as well.
Yeah, junior league. I think kids that are suspended.
If they're suspended at an NRL level,
yes,
they can't. It evolves over to 2024.
Yes,
they can't play.
Can't play.
Okay.
So everyone's up on the same rules.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, they had that problem last year too. NAB with Randall, but they turned around and and ended up winning it. So, but they'll be a big threat again. NAB, they always are.
Yeah.
So, mate, I'm hearing that there's been a big split with the South Coast Cockatoos.
Yeah,
there was a split last year. But
Yeah,
I heard the split is that bad now that South Coast Cockatoos will be a development team.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I'm hearing.
I know that. I heard that there was unsettlement They were unsettled last year.
and they will be again this year.
Okay.
Yep.
So.
But
I
he's
think-
a smoky, and you fellas might know a bit about it. Is there any rumours to Creel Phillips playing with Bagel?
Yes, I'm hearing it.
Yeah, I'm here
Loud
with the
and
same
clear.
thing too.
And John can tell you that it's true because he's sitting next to me.
I'm not going to.
John's part of the Weigels playing group now.
Yeah.
So that like from
Now-
RAB, that's a big loss, bro.
Mate, that's a massive loss for RAB.
Yeah.
So but he is representing his mob from up here too.
Yeah,
I
he's
mean,
Bunjalung,
he's
so-
a Bunjalung. His mother's a Bunjalung woman. Has very strong connections with Cabostree Island as well.
Yeah. Right.
So it's sort of a bit of a coming home, I think, for Careel too. I mean, he's playing with his mob again. In this year's knockout.
Tweed boy too.
Shane's a Tweed boy.
They're blaring them some Tweed heads.
Yeah. That's all my mum's mob.
Yep.
So
There you go. So it don't make sense, and I think it just seems right for him to be playing.
So based on that, what other goss we got?
Mate. You never. I don't really hold much on the teams, knockout teams, and naming of teams, because you never know who runs out with who.
But listen,
I'll give you an example.
This is the best part.
I know.
Of this time of the year is the best time of the year
But
for us as Indigenous people, because I'll tell you what, knockout rumours are the best rumours.
Yeah.
Trust me.
I'll tell you one thing that had me laughing.
Is it about Beagles?
No. What happened was there was one player in particular who I heard was in like 4 or 5 different teams.
That's every year.
Yeah, I know. And that's what I mean. And this player's saying to every single team, yeah, I'm playing. And then he runs out of those 5 teams. He runs out with a completely different team of those 5.
Jace is proof in the pudding, mate. He's got 4 knockouts to 3 different teams. So he's probably told those 3 teams. He's probably told Redfern All Blacks, no, I'm good. Put me down, and went and played with Lapa. And then he went the year after. He went and said to Lapa, no, I'm going to stick here. We won it last year. Then he went back to the Blacks, won one back there. He went.
Just your experience, Jace. Would you like waiting out to see who had the better team, or what was your rationale behind that?
It was pretty much decided. Because I played me a lot of junior footy with Lapa, and then with the Memorial side, it was my uncle's side. So that was pretty, and then I was living in Armadale at the time, so it's my wife's family. So it wasn't too hard.
Yeah, it wasn't too hard. No, that's fine. No,
Here's a rumour for you.
What?
I've got to throw this one out there. Where are the Binge boys playing this year? In the knockout. Talking about players that have been named in 3 or 4 squads. They've been named in 3 squads, and I get phone. And listen, just for those squads that are out there, right? I just want to make an announcement, and for the 2 boys, don't ring me and ask me who they're playing for, please. Everyone, I don't know. They don't tell me.
Look, you like to control their lives about football. Don't
sorry, mate. Not when it comes to knockout. Sorry, but so if anyone knows who they're playing for, just ring them. I don't know.
I heard Newcastle Emus.
Well, they've already played there. They played there 1 year together.
Yeah, I know, and they really enjoyed it.
I asked Jerem the other day, and that's not true.
Okay.
So there you go.
Yeah, out home, bro. Like up until last week, no Mungandai, but as I think of today, I think they're
going to be a first for a long time too.
Yeah, bro. If they, like you've seen their young side,
Mate, their crop of young kids out there are brilliant.
Yeah.
I was talking to brother boy Gary Prince, and I said that side that's coming through there, they remind me of Toomelo, like 94.
Oh, yeah, definitely, Jace.
Right, like if that's the truth, I think young Davey Armstrong, young G-boy Prince, there's some strike power there with them.
Remember, me and you actually specifically went over the knockout, the last knockout they had at Leichhardt Oval. Mungandai had a under-16s team in there, and they blitzed it. They blitzed that under-16 competition. I said, and it was you. We were standing together, and I said to you, mate, in 4 or 5 years' time, this Mungandai team is going to be one hell of a side, and they're going to go pretty close to getting to top 4.
Yeah,
they're not coming.
No, apparently they're coming now, bro.
Oh, they're going. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
They probably watched this podcast last week when there was spots closing up pretty quickly. So, Jake made it pretty clear that put it in, get your nomination in, get it forwarded.
Is there any other teams? Obviously, no, and mate, their rebuild phase, or they'll be no Dino, no Dennis.
Not too sure, bro. If there's going to be a no.
I thought last year Dennis was Dennis's last knockout.
Blue or gold, if what they're going to do. My young fella played with him last year. Play with his uncle. So not sure what's happening there.
So we already know. We already know that the hours are stacked.
Yeah, I know we talked a lot about our country teams. What about the city teams? What about
Sydney All Blacks, mate?
Yeah, but there's more than that. What
Redfern have got a lot of young players.
Yeah.
Larper will be Larper, mate. They're always there or thereabouts.
What about the Western Sydney teams?
Oh, mate, the team that I Country Cockatoos. I haven't heard too much, but they're a big unit of a team.
Yeah, are they the gold team?
Country. They got country jumpers, New South Wales country colours.
Yeah, and you got Waterloo Storm. They're always a threat.
Yeah. I mean, they win games that they're not supposed to win. Waterloo. They just I don't know how they just knock out experience.
As you know, but they've been our bogey side for the last couple of years. Waterloo.
Mate, every time the Boomerangs draw Waterloo, I just put my head down and just show because Jace is 100% right. Every team in the knockout's got a bogey team.
Yeah.
So interesting. So that being said, mate, I think unless we got some more yarns off the cuff, we've now confirmed that Newcastle Emus are going to be very strong. I think we've pretty much can lock Jerome Haynes into that team. I think that combined with the other players they've got that they've retained, they're going to be really strong.
Like Ty and
NAB is going to be strong again. Even though Jason said that there could be a bit of a movement in the camp around suspensions and whatnot. Sydney All Blacks, mate.
Yeah, that's interesting.
What's
going to happen to all the players that don't get picked for the Glebe, the Redfern All Blacks, Larper? What are they going to do?
They'll go back and play for either Waterloo or Redfern or Larper.
Okay.
That will divide. That's how thing works.
Divide.
That's how things work in Sydney. Well, mate, you could probably say the same thing if there's another team from the Northern Rivers, from the Bunjong Nation. You could probably say everyone's competing for players.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, it happens everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, Jace, you guys have got a very different thing happening in Moree this year. You've got the Moree Boomerangs, which Toby Keys is coaching, and then you've got the Godfrey Swan Memorial team.
Yeah.
So that's similar situation, smaller town.
Yeah.
The city's a big city. We all know that. So it's just, I think that's just how knockouts. Things like this just happen every year.
With the Uncle Godfrey Memorial side going in, would that dilute your squad a little bit, or do you think just from a selection point of view?
Yeah, like family, a majority of the boys will probably go that way with Uncle Godfrey's side, and another probably half will stay with us.
Yeah.
This isn't a knockout yarn, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. Who's the Munster playing for?
I think he's strapping the boots on.
He's staunching up.
Yeah, East Pegas, he's coming home. So
they're with the ranks.
Yeah, recruitment's slowly coming together, bro.
Tell him I'm going to be watching next weekend.
Yeah.
Get in his ear, say Uncle Chris said it to you. He's watching next weekend, mate.
Yeah. Trying to persuade Lynn to come home. So yeah, see how we go.
You want now? You listen. You want me to ring him for you or what? He listens to his uncle. But that's good, mate. Look, I think we could sit here all night and talk about knockout yarns. To be totally honest,
we sure can.
Getting back to the podcast, Jace. We just probably the way we like to finish up is our whatevs. So that's anything outside of the knockout or rugby league in general. We've got Goffy's Goss. Poor old Goffy got into trouble last week. He made a little bit of a blunder.
That's Goss, though.
It was Goss, and he gave the Goss, and then we got the Goss was confirmed to not be true. But that's what Goss is about.
That's what Goss is.
Yeah, so I think he done well.
That's just speculation.
The look on his face, first time I've ever seen him go red. It's a big red head, but anyway. He backtracked on that statement that he made last week, and so be it. But have we got anything else from the Goffy's Goss section this week, mate? He's doing the hand waving. I'm out. I don't want to do it again. So there's nothing from the Goffy's Goss section. Have we got anything? You got any whatevers, brothers?
Nah.
Mate, Les would have. If Les was on tonight, he'd have about 4.
Yeah, look, I think I've actively participated in this podcast a lot more than Les would. So, I'm just throwing it out there.
I'm just going to say my whatevs is this will probably be John's last podcast because his vocabulary is way too high for both me or Les. And his knowledge base from a development point of view far exceeds the podcast, and I think he should stick to development.
You're saying I don't talk black enough?
Mate, the podcast isn't a black thing, you idiot. This is a podcast for all rugby league lovers,
okay,
John.
Right.
We do have an Indigenous look to it because of the knockouts. So I'd like you to, backtrack on what you just said, mate. It's a podcast, a rugby league lovers podcast.
Okay. Well,
I've got one out of the Goffy's Goss, mate, and this is a massive one. Jace, you can remember last week, and we'll finish on this note.
Yeah.
We were talking to Jacob Briggs, and we talked about the knockout down in Tuggerah this year. Interestingly enough, I got a phone call from Jake. Would have been Wednesday this week. It's not Wednesday this week. It is Wednesday today. Would have been Monday. It would have been Monday night. From Jake. As you know, Jace, that we do the knockout is covered or has coverage from NITV on on Sunday and Monday. And we did say that we would be at the knockout this year. Both me and the Big Foxy, we'll be doing a bit of podcasting, either welcomed by NITV or not. Obviously, there's a contractual arrangement with NITV for Sunday and Monday. But here's an announcement. The Mark Golf Media Sport and our manager, Mark Golf, we can probably, all but signing a contract, tell you that this is a very exciting news for myself and Les and Goffy. We've been invited to put a proposal to NAB to cover Friday and Saturday at the knockout from a commentary perspective and doing our commentary as we do at the Little Knockout here in Lismore. We'll actually have special guest commentary. We're looking at probably covering possibly 2 grounds, number 1 and number 2, for the young kids, Jace, and also for our women, and then obviously for the men on the Saturday, which there's no coverage, as you know, Jace, there's no coverage at all on Saturday by NITV, and there's no coverage at all for the juniors or our women. So once I think we can finalise things, hopefully by the end of this week, we can come back and make a massive announcement that the Mark Goff Media Sport and the Big Foxy and Gingy and people that we will invite into the commentary arena could be covering the 51st annual knockout at Tuggerah on Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, that's deadly, bro.
If that happens, Jace, I know that'll be massive. The other thing, Jace, I think it leads into is that question that Jake raised around we don't see enough NRL scouts at the knockout from our junior perspective and also for our women. Guess what? If we can take it from that to the lounge rooms of people's lives and also to their social media sites and to NRL player managers, NRL recruiters, mate, and we can get these kids pretty much exposure, mate. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah, let's get them out there, bro. It's the biggest knockout of its kind in the world, and there's abundance of talent there just waiting to be picked up.
Yeah.
So you told me on Tuesday that you wasn't going.
Yeah, well, this only
and
I didn't want to make it out. I'm playing it cool. I'm just playing it cool at the moment. It's under negotiation as we speak, Mr. Golf, and I can confirm that's a real conversation with Jake Briggs that I had this week.
Can't believe you held that against me, mate. I'm disappointed.
The best thing about it too, Jace, if we do pull this off, me and the Big Foxy get parking We get VIP passes, and we get an opportunity.
What about
We get an opportunity to unearth the next.
Ray Hadley?
No,
Oh,
we get to unearth two things. One of those is the
exposure for
the
Chris?
exposure for our young kids
Oh,
and our
okay,
women,
yeah.
and the second thing is the opportunity to unearth future commentators and people that like to do what I'm doing right now.
But the other big rumour, bro, over Omi is that, don't know if it's true, is Chris Bin's not involved with any team this year.
I'm not.
He said that all the time.
No, seriously, I'm not.
He said that all the time.
I-
He likes
mate,
to be. He likes to be in the
I'll go on
background
record.
of all these different teams.
It is not a rumour. It's true. And I'll tell you why. I mean, if this works out, then obviously I'm going to be busy doing my media work, which is a new phase of my life.
2 days of your life.
Yeah, just hear me out, will you?
Okay.
This definitely is your last podcast, by the way. The other reason is just simply no one's asked. So, if you don't get asked, you don't do it.
That's I call crap on that. He's been asked. He's just playing it cool.
He talks about the boys, about Caleb and Chris. He's no different.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Bella. I'm with you on that one.
Well, mate, to be totally honest, I haven't really coached Jason. This is pretty accurate. I haven't really coached any other teams outside of Moree at a knockout, and that's I stick thick.
But Northern, Cabo.
I didn't coach those teams. I played in them.
Northern.
Yep.
You coached me that year
No, I
when
didn't
when
coach.
you wanted to do that.
Uncle Ali coached, mate. I was his assistant.
No,
Yeah,
no.
I didn't coach.
When I come home,
I didn't coach a Northern
hang on
team
now,
in
hang
knockout.
on. I want to correct
Anyway.
him here. I was in that team. He coached. He knocked on my door after we lost to Redfern, that Memorial team. And he knocked on my door, and early in the
what did I
morning,
say to you? I'm
and he
hungry.
said, "Come on, boys, we're going down here. We're doing a protest." And he held the knockout.
Knock up.
Yeah. He held the knockout up for
I'm
hours. Do you remember that?
I'm being honest.
Do you
I didn't
remember that
coach. I'm
protest?
being honest. I didn't. Listen,
I
the
couldn't do
podcast
it.
is dragging out. I didn't coach that year. It was actually Uncle Andy Bolt.
You coach, brother.
There you go.
And again, in the background, pulling the strings.
There you go. But Jason, it is true. It's not a rumour.
A bit pretty busy for you. He's do the Lismore knockout and then the big one, hopefully.
Yeah, that's it on the Friday and Saturday. So if that happens and we pull that off, that's great. I think it'll be big for not just the Markov Media Sports crew and myself and Les. I think the traction that we got at the Lismore knockout will be even bigger at the big knockout. So we might even give. Oh, no, I think he's contracted by NITV. I was going to ask for Munganai moments, but anyway. We'll see what happens. And Jace, I'm going to throw the olive branch out there too, brother. If we get down to the knockout and that's happening, brothers, I'd love to get you to do that commentary, mate, and come up and have a bit of a chat and maybe sit in and commentate a couple of games.
What about me?
You're playing, mate.
Yeah. Not on Friday.
You're Bigles, mate. You guys aren't allowed to do anything unless you get permission. So that's how it is.
Okay, I'll get a media release permission, and I get.
But
free
anyway,
parking
on
and
that
everything
note,
else.
that, my friends, and Jace, I want to say thanks, mate, for your participation. It's always great to have you on board, and we'll get probably as we get close to the knockout, we'll get you back. John, thank you for your first and only visit to the podcast. And Les, if you're watching this, brother, hurry the bloody hell up and get back home because I don't know if I can put up with John for another week. Thank you to our audience, viewing audience, and all of our watchers out there. That, our friends, is an NRRRL wrap. See you next week.